once you start thinking about it that way, that everything is and can be a weapon, then you will truly are forever armed, and they will never be able to disarm you. Who is they? Don't worry about who they is. They could be anybody. But fuck them. You don't want to ever be unarmed. And with this knowledge that I'm about to impart on you, maybe you know some of it, maybe you know a bunch of it. Good for you. Good on you, man. But you know what? It's worth going over because when you're overseas or even traveling here domestically in certain states, you certainly cannot be armed with a sidearm or a rifle or anything like that. In a lot of countries, like I've mentioned before, you can't even carry a knife. So, you know, being able to train with and learn how to use things like a stick, things like an ashtray, for example, this is a perfect fucking weapon. I mean, a lot of places don't let you smoke anymore, fuckers, but, you know, that's just a good example right there. I mean, you look at this ashtray, it would be amazing to kind of turn on its side, smash it into the guy's nose, smash it into his temples. Hell, you could even pick it up, throw it at him to kind of create an opening, and then maybe, kick him in the balls, chop him in the bridge of the nose, grab his head, turn it, throw him. The sky's the limit when it comes to this stuff. Certainly you can carry things like a key. Obviously, a lot of guys will tell you about using the key, put it in your hand here. That can be kind of uncomfortable. You can turn it here to use it like that, more of a slashing motion. Just don't be a pussy though. Grab it here, smash the guy where you need to smash him. A lot of this stuff that we're going to be talking about with the improvised weapons is, at least as far as the blunt weapons go, it takes kind of a knowledge of the human body, that is a knowledge of where to exploit the vulnerable areas of the human body, but that really doesn't take long to learn. Hell, you could even learn it by reading a book. You certainly can't learn how to fight by reading a book, so as I've stated before, you really should be getting some type of training. But when it comes to all of this stuff, it does kind of take a knowledge of, where to strike and the best openings and how to create openings and stuff like that. But once you know it, you know it. And once you know this stuff as well, you know it. And like I said, once you start thinking about it, everything kind of starts looking like it would be a great weapon. And the truth is, everything could and can be a great weapon. Like I was saying before, a lot of the times when I've been overseas, and certainly a lot of the times when anybody's overseas, I mean, unless you're working for the diplomatic security or, have a diplomatic passport, working for the government, something like that, you're not going to be armed. It's plain and simple. And you may not even be able to carry, a knife or something, but, something you could possibly carry that may not look so suspicious is one of these bad boys. And it certainly has a blade on it. Would I want to go ahead and fight a guy with this? Now the blade's kind of flimsy. It could retract on itself. I wouldn't necessarily want to trust it. But if it's what I could carry, hell, it's what I could carry. And it's better than nothing because you don't, generally speaking, end a man's will to fight with your fists unless you're, a really solid boxer or something like that. We're not all martial artists. But we can all learn where to cut to deal with a terrorist. So things like this can be great. Now, I know they teach to a lot of the guys in government agencies, stuff with pens and stuff with small tactical flashlights. And that's amazing because, again, if you're a spy, for example, working overseas, you're certainly not going to be able to carry a gun. I mean, again, if you have the right type of job or whatever, maybe, but generally speaking, those guys certainly don't want to get caught with a gun. That's the quickest way to get caught or blown, or one of them at least. It's illegal. And certainly if you're like doing some kind of non-official cover type thing, you're not going to go around carrying a gun. But what can you carry and look totally inconspicuous is a gosh damn pen. And it doesn't take anything. And we'll go over how to use a pen and how to use a flashlight here in this section. But things like that are really paramount. And that's why I think, the CIA and stuff is really big and has been, from what I understand, for a little while now, about teaching their guys how to use pens. Now, the thing to remember with pens is some pens, are flimsy, like this one. certainly it's plastic and shit, but you can get better ones. I know guys are big fans of the tactical pens and everything, but the thing is with those, look, if someone sees you who knows about it with a tactical pen, that's going to create red flags right there. What's this guy with the who is this tactical guy with his tactical fucking pen? So you're better off finding a sturdy, regular, nonchalant looking pen. Same things with the flashlights. You might get seen with this. It's happened to me, and people say, "Hey, Mr. Tactical, what are you doing over there?" So you might like to get something a little less threatening than this, still sturdy enough. You can even find ones with the bezel on it, like the Tactical. I had a friend who was a state trooper. He used to say DNA collector, but that's kind of what these things are. The bezels are meant for striking. You could find these things that are a lot less threatening and tactical looking nowadays, especially. Hell, things like a screwdriver. Now, I'd be cautious about walking around with a gosh damn screwdriver unless you're, some type of contractor or construction worker or something. But I just thought I'd throw it in here because I know criminals kind of in some places kind of like these things. They carry it in a backpack or something. Again, also just touching on that, these mag lights are great. I've known guys who were less than honest at how they made their living, and they loved to carry a mag light in their backpack, not only because they could smash a guy with it, also they could smash windows and stuff like that with it too. And again, you don't have to get the big ones here. This one looks very much like a security or a cop should have it. So if you're not doing that, I would be cautious. If you're worried about getting looked at, I would advise against that. But something more like this with, the more blue, and it's a little smaller, it's not going to raise a lot of red flags necessarily, depending on, again, what your what your manner of dress is, what your demeanor is, and all that stuff. Now, scissors can be a great thing. Again, it just depends. Why do you have scissors? Maybe you keep it in a hygiene kit or something like that in a bag. I don't know. But quick story. I was, again, in my younger years hanging out with guys who, let's just say they were a rough bunch. And one of these guys had an argument with the other guy. And actually, it was over jiu-jitsu, I think, and it was, my jiu-jitsu's fucking better than your street style or whatever, and, the guy got really angry at the jiu-jitsu guy, fuck you, and a fight was about to ensue. But the thing that I'll always find funny is that when it came down to it, the street guy knew that he didn't want to wrestle with this fucking jiu-jitsu guy, so he grabbed him up by the shirt collar, and there happened to be a pair of sharp scissors laying on the table there. So he grabbed them up by the shirt collar and just out of nowhere grabbed the scissors and put the fucking things to the guy's throat. And he said, you want to fight me, cocksucker, motherfucker, blah, 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 blah. And the jiu-jitsu guy kind of realized, and he's like, oh, fuck you, man. And it ended up getting diffused. But I'll always find that funny that, the street guy knew, fuck, I'm not going to do sports jiu-jitsu rolling around with this fucking guy. I'm going to take a gosh damn pair of scissors and put it to his throat. And if he keeps talking about his jiu-jitsu, I'm going to open that fucking throat. But that's just a quick antidote there, that thinking smart, utilizing what's around you, and in that case, I didn't even really realize the gosh damn scissors were on the table. I don't think anybody did, but this guy had grown up kind of that way. He was just a street fighter, and he knew how to use the things that were immediately within his reach and in his environment to great exploitation against someone who just kind of was used to, fighting in the ring, rolling around, Don't get me wrong, I'm a big jiu-jitsu guy. I enjoy it. It's a great sport. But when it comes down to it, like I said, that the street guy knew how to use what's around him and use his environment to dominate that particular situation. So moving on, look, you're you're in a hotel, obviously you might have access to some kind of cutlery. Maybe you're living over there. Still, I wouldn't necessarily maybe carry this, but should you be involved in something within your home or hell, even someone else's home, and, for whatever reason, a criminal or terrorist wants to get you, look, these are available. Obviously, knives, especially, that's a serious thing. So don't ever use one unless you need to dispatch an Al-Qaeda or something like that. That's just my warning of good conscience there. Look, hammers, obviously, I know for a while, I think it was the Hells Angels, or maybe they still do. A lot of, guys like that, criminals, gang members, whatever, they like to carry hammers because I don't think there is a law against it. Even if you're a felon, I think you can fucking carry a hammer. You just have to be smart about explaining it to the law if they should question you. Maybe, hey, I'm a construction worker, man. So another thing is like I know guys are big on OC spray, and yeah, it's good. I mean, one more quick story for you there. You know, I sprayed a guy 3 times my size back in my day with some OC spray right in the face. I gave him a couple great shots of it, and he ate it, and he kept coming and coming. So be careful. There definitely are guys, number one, who are immune to it for some reason. There are other guys who know how to handle it. If they've spent time in prison or if they're just, that kind of natured guy, they might just put their head down and, kind of rush into you like that, thus, getting it on the top of their head rather than getting in their face. They also might have more of immunity to it. They might know to close their eyes. They might know to, try to get away from it, whatever, evade it. But with all that OC in mind, it is a solid option. And if where you are, it is legal to carry it or legitimate, yeah, absolutely. Sure, why not? But in lieu of that or whatever, things like this, this happens to be a stupid dry erase cleaner, so I wouldn't necessarily say, spraying that would do very much. It's better than nothing. But you can get, I guess, like sunscreen in a spray bottle, cologne in a spray bottle, things like that. And this one happens to be one of those environmentally safe, just pump it once and some comes out. But obviously you can find small cans that will fit in your pocket. I know one of these cologne sprays makes very small ones, or it used to at least, that are about this big, and it'll fit right in your pocket. And it's a continuous spray. And if you get someone, especially by surprise, with that in their face, it certainly can be a great, great option, especially, if you don't want to have to fight them fair. And again, if you're on the street, you should not be fighting fairly with anybody. So things like that to spray in their face. Again, so sand, this is a big bag of sand. And what I will do and have done a number of times is I will take some sand and I will carry that motherfucker in my pocket. Not the whole bag, but I'll take a handful of it. And I'll either put it in my back pocket, in my front pocket, or my jacket pocket, whatever the case may be, and I'll have it ready to deploy. It's a great option. I mean, especially if you're dealing with someone with a knife, or you're dealing with a very large opponent who you are pretty sure that you might not be able to handle, especially maybe multiple opponents. You throw some of that in their face, it's going to take away their vision, and it's going to do it quickly, assuming that they didn't close their eyes. I mean, hell, you really need like 1 grain of sand to get in their eyes, and it really starts bothering them. You've probably had it happen to you. It is not fun. So, look, especially maybe you're rolling around in the dirt with somebody. I know they teach this. Well, I don't know if they teach this nowadays, but I know they used to teach it in the Army, that, throw sand in your opponent's face or whatever, especially if he pulls a knife or whatever. So, a cell phone. Look, honestly, these cell phones are great. I don't know if they make them anymore. I don't really care, but even your iPhone you can use, and you can jab that in their face. You can jab it in the bridge of their nose, jab it in their throat, jab it against their temples. And we'll go over again later here some patterns that we can run with that, and you can even train. You don't have to train with your phone, but you can train with something a similar size and program that muscle memory for you. So, look, just because you're talking on your phone, hey, blah, 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 sweetheart, yeah, I'm working hard, whatever. Meanwhile, she doesn't know you're heading to the titty bar, but that's between you and I. So you're talking on the phone, and then some big guy, comes up, blah, blah, blah. Hey, give me your money, man. I want your money. Fuck you, American. And whoppa! You hit him with the damn phone in the bridge of the nose or, in the throat, and then knee him in the balls. You can run away from this big guy and not have to give him your hard-earned money. Now, rocks. I mean, again, I know they used to teach this. I'm sure they do. Still to the military guys. You guys could let me know who have served if they still do. But this happens to be a perfect rock. You're rolling around with somebody in the dirt or whatever, in the woods. You pick up a rock, or a brick, whatever the case may be. Smash them in the head. Hell, with something this size, you can smash them in the elbow, smash them in the nuts, smash them in the ribs. you could smash a guy anywhere with this, and that smash is gonna hurt. I don't care who the fuck you are, especially if you get them in a sensitive area, and you know a little bit about where to target on the human body, and you get them in the right place. That's not gonna be fun. And look, if you get them in the head, could be potentially lethal. So with rocks and bricks, just be careful. You definitely don't want to ever kill anybody. That's the last thing. Lord forbid. You really don't. From what I've heard, it's not a good feeling. Books. Now, books are great. Now, not only could you, roll up a book, and we'll get to this, and smash the guy with it. Obviously, books can also be used to stop knife cuts, knife stabs. So I'll show you this in a second here, but there are ways of putting these books and taping them to your body. And I don't necessarily know how thick the book would have to be to stop bullets, and I guess it would depend on, what the caliber and what type of round, from what type of weapon was fired. But certainly, books can stop knife stabs, and I know that I've heard that in prison, that's used a bit. It's definitely used. It's also used on the streets. I know guys who have gone that route, and they'll tell you that's a good route to go with if you're worried about that. You could just tape it to your body, throw it under a shirt. No one's the wiser. Books, again, obviously, I think you may have seen there was one of those spy movies out there where the guy's fighting and they're using a book to stop a punch or a knife or something, and then he hits the guy. You can hit them in the throat with the book. You can smash them with the book. Obviously, you can stop, cuts and stuff like that with the book. Don't get too carried away. You ain't Jason Bourne, guarantee you. I ain't either. But another thing I will tell you about the books is actually you can take thick phone books and stuff. This book might be thick enough. I'm not 100% sure, but you can put that inside your vehicle. And what you can do, and I know guys have done this in Iraq and stuff, I believe. I was talking to some contractors back in the day when I was training with these guys, and they were telling me how they didn't fucking have armored vehicles. So what they did was they were taping books and shit to the insides of their vehicles to make it more armored against rounds coming in. So you can do that. If you have a shitload of books, maybe you want to rob a library. I don't suggest it. I'm not telling you to rob a library, but hell, if you can get a lot of books and you're worried about that type of thing, placing them inside your car doors and stuff might not be a bad idea if you're worried about rounds coming in. I had a sharpener somewhere, but what you can do with your credit cards, and if you're planning on keeping this credit card and using it, maybe get one that's old or something, or better yet, someone else's old credit card that doesn't have your name on it. I'm not saying to steal anyone's credit card, certainly, because that's a felony. But what you can do is get whatever. It doesn't have to be a credit card. You could probably use a hotel room key. You could probably use a number of other cards like a credit card. But what guys will do is take a knife sharpener, and they'll run it through that, and they'll sharpen the edges of this, and it can get very sharp. Definitely sharp enough to sever an artery or something like that. Cut the top of their forehead, make them bleed profusely. When you get cut on the head, it tends to bleed and bleed. So a nice thing to do is cut above the guy's forehead, make them bleed into the eyes. It can be very distracting for them. Another thing guys have done with these, again, this is a very dirty trick, but they'll actually take some translucent tape, and tape actually doesn't have to be translucent. It can be the matching color would be better. But what they'll do is they'll tape razor blades onto the backs of these cards and have it in their wallet or wherever it is, and then they'll take it out, and boom, it's a deadly fucking weapon. That shit's nasty. I mean, razor blades, I don't even fucking talk about it, because razor blades are fucking nasty. It's a fucking nasty fucking thing. But anyway, I digress. Guys have done that. I know guys do it. Even, I don't know, for some reason that's just so nasty to me. But paper. So you might be thinking to yourself, what the fuck are you talking about with the paper? Well, let me show you. And this is another thing I know. The CIA is huge on this stuff. It's guys like that who need to be able to think about using weapons that are not firearms, knives, stuff like that. You can roll it up and simply use it like this. Now, I know this has been featured in spy movies lately and stuff. This guys have been doing this since back in World War II. They were teaching the OSS guys this stuff. It's an oldie but a goodie. So you can roll this bad boy up, and what you can even do is roll it in a certain manner so that it actually starts bringing it to a point. Not something so sharp. Obviously it's not going to stab through the guy, but it definitely will hit a pressure point. And pressure points, look, they could be good. I'm not saying pressure points are the end-all be-all, but if you know some pressure points, I guess, look, I don't know. I don't think personally that pressure points are huge, because if you look at, if you look at it this way, if they worked, the UFC fighters would all learn it, and so would everybody else, and then everyone would just be pressure pointing everybody and hurting them that way, but it doesn't really. But if you know where to strike, like I said, and where the targeting zones are, creating a point on it would be maybe more effective than not. But hell, in my opinion personally, and I'm not necessarily an expert, although I'd like to think I am, just rolling it like this, and the tighter the better, and then you can fucking, you can use it. Maybe you can use it like a club. I would say, look, the better option would be to jab it in their throat. Maybe you can come under, jab it in their balls, and again, we'll go over using this, and I'll get someone to, come in and we'll kind of show you some patterns that I like to train with this stuff. But that's with the paper. It becomes highly effective when you roll it up tightly enough. Same thing with the magazine. Look, to carry around a magazine, it's no big deal. Obviously, you like to stay informed and you like to read. Same thing goes with a newspaper, obviously. But you roll it up nice and good. And this isn't even that tight, but the tighter the better, like I said. And it'll do a lot of damage. Believe it or not, it will do a lot of damage. Like I said, I wouldn't use it necessarily as a baton, but I would definitely use it. So that's that. Now, a tie, obviously we talked about, I believe it was on the first DVD, using your belt to incapacitate a terrorist kidnapping. Same thing. Now, speaking about the belt, it doesn't have to be strangulation, and it doesn't necessarily have to be some type of fancy James Bond joint lock with it either. What you can do is carry a belt and use the goddamn buckle and whip it at his head, whip it at that knife hand, whip it at his face. Maybe you can cut him in the face with it. Get lucky. Maybe you can cut him in the eye with it. But in any case, once you start flailing this bad boy about, he's not going to be, he's going to second guess himself at least, hopefully. Unless he's a real bad motherfucker. Now, these guys do this, and they'll take their keys and kind of create, I've just used a stupid little shoelace, an old one, but guys will do this, and especially the more keys and the heavier stuff you have, and you can whip it at the guy and freak out on him there. Obviously, I have a pocket knife here, and like I said, I believe I talked about this in the first section. These ones are great. In a lot of countries or in a lot of places where you can't carry a knife, you can still kind of get away with a pocket knife. And even the little ones, the keychain ones, can be used to slash. So that's a solid option there. Let me see, obviously we've all seen in the movies the beer bottle, they break it and then they use it. That's definitely something to think about. I did a course where we had to kind of escape and evade, and one of the things we had to do was create improvised weapons as part of the passing curriculum. So we did, and guys were using broken glass at the ends of sticks, and it actually was, fuck, I wouldn't want to face it. I'll put it to you like that. It's no joke. Broken glass, razor blades, that shit's no joke. Look, a scarf obviously can be used to choke. And you can also throw it at somebody. Now, I've seen guys who will take their scarves and they'll actually sew like weighted shit into it. It might not be a bad idea, and you might be able to get away with it too. So, good on you if you can do that. Whip it at the guy. Hell, if you're able to put some weighted shit in it, it could potentially really fuck somebody up. So, come to think of it, that's not a bad idea. Lighters. Now, lighters can obviously be used as a fist loader. Not to mention the fact they create fire, but look, it just seems that I don't know the mechanics on this, but for whatever reason, when you've got something like this, whether it's a roll of quarters or a lighter, it gives your punch a little more oomph. And certainly you can do that. Brass knuckles, but if you're rolling around with brass knuckles, then that could cause some trouble. Now, sticks. I mean, obviously sticks are everywhere. Certainly, if you're in the wilderness, definitely you could grab a stick. Now, stick, it's a little light. It might piss the guy off if you try to hit him with it like a club. But what you certainly could do is, you see here, it's nice and sharp at the end. And actually, when I broke this stick off, it just happened to be like that. So, to jab it in someone and maybe you kind of use it as a bayonet, that might not be a bad idea. Now, speaking of this, my Jeet Kune Do instructor was always huge. He lived. I don't know where he lives now. I think he's in Jersey now, but he lived in the city, New York City. And he was huge on trying to find like broken broom handles in the trash and shit like that, using your environment to kind of prevail. And he would say, yeah, he'd look at where the trees are planted, where the broken broom handle might be. He said he's even taken broken broom handles and kind of taken them out of the trash and kind of stuck them here and stuck them there. He knew where they were just in case he needed to grab one at some point. So. Obviously, golf clubs. I mean, yeah, I guess if you're on your golf outing and you get attacked by the Taliban, it's better than nothing. I tend to think baseball bats are kind of a pointless weapon. I never liked them. I never thought they were a great weapon, but certainly, I mean, that's kind of along the lines of what we were talking about with using everything. Pool cues, yeah, sure. Like I said, if you're at a pool hall, you've seen all the 80s movies about that. I love that type of shit, but why not? Coffee mugs. I mean, hell, you can jab it into their face. You can even hold it if it's a sturdy one like this and clock the motherfucker with it. But what is in your side? Your coffee mug. Hot fucking coffee. And that shit will burn a motherfucker and certainly take his mind off the fight for at least a couple of seconds while he's got it in his eyes and his face. So, again, hot beverage, you're enjoying it, can also be used as a weapon. So, like I was saying, the world's your oyster. Speaking of pool, a pool cue and you smash a guy. You smash a guy. That's great. Everything around you is a weapon. Certainly all of these things are potentially great weapons. And if you just keep looking, you'll find yourself sooner than later start thinking, yeah, this is a great weapon. Oh, I could fuck a guy up with this and this would be wonderful. Well, that's exactly how I want you to start thinking, because just because you're overseas and you don't got your Glock or your Beretta on you, or even, your fancy Gerber or whatever you carry, that is no reason to get discouraged, because you are armed no matter where you are. And now you're going to be armed with a lot of fucking pretty crazy knowledge that most people never really attain in their lives. Most people also don't think like I do. But maybe that's the reason I'm so incredibly successful. So, pens, we'll be going over that. We'll certainly be going over a little more with the knives. I've got a great video on YouTube, Knife Fighting 101. Check it out. That's pretty good stuff that I give out for free there. And I'm doing that because I just want to share some love. Now, flashlights, again, we'll go over that. And we'll probably go over a few other things, because I did fail to kind of talk about this in the hand-to-hand combat section. So, just for good measure, this is important stuff, and that's why I'm going to put it in. So, anyway, we'll see in the next little bit here.